These next 10 minutes or so are super important. It can help you move better and may even change your life, literally. We've got an important one for you today. We're going to be talking about your joints. You know, the ones that keep you moving. The knees, the hips, feet, all of them. Knuckles. We're going to tackle the absolute worst foods for joint pain, and trust me, you'll want to pay attention because we've got some solid science to back it all up. But don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom. We've also got some delicious alternatives that you can swap in, and nope, it's not just boring old veggies. These foods are clinically proven to make a difference. But before we get into all that, let's talk about the different types of arthritis you might be dealing with. We're talking about rheumatoid, psoriatic, osteoarthritis, and gout. Each one a little different, but all causing that annoying joint pain. And whenever you hear osteoarthritis, you might think it's all about missing cartilage. You know, the idea that being overweight causes your joints to grind down to nothing. But here's the thing, it's not just about the weight. There's actually a whole metabolic side to it, and that often gets overlooked. Then there's gout, which is a serious one. Imagine razor blades slicing through your joints. Yeah, that's what gout feels like. And guess what? Certain foods can make it worse. Gout is when uric acid builds up and turns into these nasty little crystals, usually in your big toe, your ankles, or your feet. Yikes! And then next up, we've got rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, psoriatic arthritis. These are all autoimmune diseases where your body essentially turns against itself. And the key here is keeping those inflammatory cytokines in check, because the less inflammation you have, the better your body can fight off these attacks. Okay, now here's a bonus one for you. It's diabetes. You may not think of it as a joint issue, but high blood sugar levels can seriously mess with your tendons. Over time, they stiffen up, making your joints feel like they've aged 20 years overnight. So keeping your metabolism in check is crucial, not just because it's better for your health, but also for your joints too. And now that we've looked into the why, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this video. The foods you should avoid and what to eat instead. Let's kick things off with the first big one on our list. Processed foods and meats. We're talking about the usual suspects. Lunch meats, bacon, ham slices, jerkies, smoked meats. These things, although they're all really tasty, are loaded with something called AGE, which stands for Advanced Glycation End Products. It sounds technical, but what you need to know is that these AGEs build up in your body and are really bad news. They're linked to pro-inflammatory cytokines, markers that crank up inflammation and, you guessed it, that nasty joint pain. And it's not just that. AGEs have also been associated with colon cancer. So if you needed more reasons to steer clear of processed meats, well, there you go. And to make matters worse, eating these meats has been shown to increase levels of interleukin-6, homocysteine, and C-reactive protein. All markers that scream inflammation, inflammation, inflammation. The bottom line, processed meats, bad. Good, healthy, sustainable meats, always a better choice. Now next up on the list is alcohol. Now alcohol has its own set of issues like alcohol abuse and what it does to your brain, but we're gonna leave that for another video. Okay, you've probably heard that alcohol, especially a glass of wine, is part of the Mediterranean diet and can be beneficial in moderation. Some studies even suggest that a glass a day might do you some good, but here's where it gets tricky. For women, drinking more than 2 glasses a day, and for men, more than 3 can start to backfire. That's about a standard beer, glass of wine, or shot of alcohol per serving. Now, the guidelines suggest that up to 10 drinks a week for women and 15 for men. We honestly think that 15 drinks a week seems a bit excessive, doesn't it? But hey, that's what the research says. The problem comes whenever you overdo it. Alcohol cranks up those pro-inflammatory cytokines again, the same ones that are bad for your joints. It also messes with your gut, leading to something called leaky gut syndrome. When that happens, your gut struggles to absorb the good nutrients you need to fight off inflammation, making a bad situation worse. And if you haven't seen our video on inflammation and leaky gut yet, go check it out. We'll leave it in the description below. Alright, now let's talk about those processed carbs, those delicious but pesky foods that mess with your body in more ways than one. And when we talk about the glycemic index, it's basically a measure of how quickly a food spikes your blood sugar. The bad guys here are the simple sugars, things donuts, pastries, all that good sugary stuff. So what should you be eating? More fruits, more vegetables. They're the good guys on the glycemic index, meaning they don't spike your blood sugar levels very quickly. But those sugary, high-carb foods like donuts, they can shoot up your blood sugar faster than you can say diabetes. Listen, we'll make it super simple for you. The more sugar in your bloodstream, the stiffer your tendons get. Easy enough, right? And more sugar equals stiffer tendons, which puts extra pressure on your joints and makes them hurt even more. And if that's not enough to make you rethink that donut, consider this. Without enough fiber in your diet, you're also at risk for issues like hemorrhoids. Trust me, you don't want to deal with that. It's painful, itchy, and pretty embarrassing. Have you ever seen the cashier's face when you're checking out a massive tube of hemorrhoid cream? It's definitely not fun. So stick to fiber-rich carbs and ditch the refined sugars. This also means cutting back on your breads, your pastries, soft drinks, and pasta. Your joints and your butt will thank you. Next up is a controversial one. We're talking about vegetable and seed oils. Now, not all oils are created equal. There are good ones and there are bad ones. It's never just black and white though. Many of the so-called bad oils are loaded with omega-6 fatty acids, and you've probably heard of omega-3s, the good oils that fight inflammation, but omega-6s, not so much. The problem with omega-6 is that they can actually contribute to inflammation. And keep in mind, inflammation isn't always bad. Your body needs it in the right amounts. Ideally, you want a 1-to-1 ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acids, but in the average American diet, it's more like 25-to-1 in favor of omega-6. And that means that way too much inflammation and not nearly enough of the anti-inflammatory omega-3s. Pretty crazy to think about that. But oils, well, they're complicated. It's not just about omega-6 versus omega-3. There are trans fats, which are the real villains, and then you have saturated fats, unsaturated fats, and fats that turn toxic when you cook them. Some people swear by certain oils while avoiding others like the plague. Yes, this is pretty confusing, but the takeaway is be mindful of your oil choices. Aim for a better balance between omega-3s and omega-6s. Remember that not all fats are created equal. This next food is going to hit some nerves, especially for the American fans. We're talking about refined sugars, particularly high fructose corn syrup, the king of refined sugar. This stuff is basically a mix of 45% glucose and 55% fructose, making it pure, concentrated sugar. And unfortunately, it's everywhere in the Western diet. Your desserts, your cupcakes, donuts, sugary cereals, cookies, and especially sodas. If soda were a food, it would easily take the crown as the worst offender. When you drink a soda, you're basically chugging down high fructose corn syrup. Gross. Studies have shown that high fructose corn syrup leads to a spike in inflammatory cytokines, which are the markers that trigger inflammation in your body. In studies with mice, those on a high fructose diet had way higher rates of cancer compared to those who weren't. Plus, their anti-inflammatory markers, the good guys that help fight off inflammation, plummeted. So what about diet soda, you say? It might not be the healthiest option, but it's still miles better than regular soda loaded with high fructose corn syrup. If you can help it, stay clear of high fructose corn syrup. It's linked to obesity, insulin problems, diabetes, fatty liver, cancer, chronic disease. It's not even up for debate anymore. This stuff is just bad news all around. Last but not least, let's talk about gout, the special diet nightmare for anyone dealing with it. Gout usually strikes in the big toe joint or the ankle. And if you've ever woken up with a throbbing pain in those spots, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you can see what gout looks like inside a foot, it's basically tiny crystals buried into your flesh, almost like someone poured crystalline sugar into your joints. These crystals, they grind away at your cartilage, slicing it, dicing it, until you quiver with throbbing pain. Gout attacks can last anywhere from 3 to 10 days. And what causes it? It's all about a buildup of uric acid. So what can you do to avoid it? First off, stay hydrated. Drink plenty of water. Cut out those sugary foods, and with soda being a major no-no, reduce your intake of fatty meats, shellfish, and crustaceans. Also, be mindful of sweetened foods and juices. And by keeping these triggers in check, you can help keep gout out of your life and protect your joints from the painful effects of those razor-sharp crystals. There are a lot of things you can do to minimize your risk of joint pain. But for managing it effectively, you have to focus on avoiding high sugar foods and beverages like sodas and refined snacks, those processed foods, certain seed oils, and even alcohol. All of these can dehydrate you and worsen inflammation. Instead, go opt for foods that help with hydration and reduce inflammation. Now, we promised we'd talk about the good stuff. Turmeric and curcumin top that list for fighting inflammation and are commonly used in Indian diets. Fresh fish, especially salmon, is rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which are essential for balancing that omega-6 intake. Green tea extract is also an amazing choice and has been shown to alleviate joint pain in high-level studies. Now, some other things you can try are supplements like collagen, chondroitin, and glucosamine. These supplements can be beneficial in controlling joint pain and helping in its recovery. Well, that's it for today. Take care of yourself and take care of your joints. Thanks for watching. Remember, with a dash of effort and a pinch of self-care, you'll be rocking that youthful glow for years to come. If you've enjoyed this video, subscribe to our channel where we uncover more Revitalaxer recipes.